Hey there, Taj Verse, and I'm Taj. Back at it again. So, getting into the habit of things. Production is going up, production value. So, last time I talked about the real work, and that included a lot of things. So, about the things that are actually going to change your perspective, your take on the world, and the things around you, how you navigate those. And it's a big thing. There's so many different topics to talk about. Um, I was talking about like perception of yourself, of others, how people view you, all that good jazz. Um, and I did mention I was going to talk about emotional intelligence, which is today. So there's a lot that goes into that, and there's things we take for granted. So there's things you learn in school, around in life, that it's a priority. It's what people talk about. But something like emotional intelligence and understanding your emotions are really not touched on, which is unfortunate, because it is a major thing that, if not checked or checked in with, causes a lot of problems, from misunderstanding, confusion, anger towards people, war, even. So, a lot of things there. And what I've found is the most useful, in learning this, is thinking of yourself as the observer of your thoughts and emotions. So that can include your own thoughts and emotions, the thoughts and emotions of others, and how you perceive that, and then with that is the actions other people take. So that can be a bit of a guessing game, but you can clear that up through conversation. And with that, you are recognizing patterns. So you have a thought or emotion, you take an action towards that thought or emotion, ends in a certain result. So it's really just putting numbers and patterns, and in a way it is statistics to that stuff. You're not going to think like, tally, I acted this way in this situation, and this was the end result. But your brain is naturally going to process those things, and it is going to feel like a pattern that you can sort of have a gist on, or have an understanding of. So also, to tag onto that is control. So emotions and control. So you want to have control over your emotions, and then also control over situations. So when people have issues, they don't have usually control over a situation, or maybe they don't have an understanding of the situation. So if we go to step one, control over your emotions. Again, going back to being the observer. So you can view your emotions, you can be in contact with them and realize, hey, these are fleeting things. So you can be angry, and you can resonate with that anger, and you can act on that anger. But when you're an observer, you can disband it and say, hey, I am angry, but it doesn't need to result in an action on my part. You can have someone cut you off driving. And do you want to honk your horn, or do you not? Is it actually valid to do that because it is a useful action that will result in something better? Or is it just, you're being a douchebag by honking? So recognizing that you have control over your thoughts and emotions, and whether it's actually valid to take action. And with that specific one, I think anger is an emotion that people think of as non-productive or dangerous, or they have some weird perspective on it. I think anger can be productive because it might elicit a thing you say or you're more aware of that needed to come about. So let's say there is a constant catalyst or something that makes you angry, with a particular person. So you can say, hey, I'm the observer of my thoughts and feelings and emotions, and be like, well, I'm just going to put it off. It's not important. It's not a big enough issue But there may reach a point where you're like, this is a constant pattern or issue that comes up, and maybe the anger is telling me something that it should be addressed, and there should be some action taken, and hopefully it results in something good. And that goes with being honest. But anger can be something that brings about change that was needed, but it doesn't have to be in a violent sense. You can have anger and not lash out. You don't have to punch somebody because you're angry. So yeah, be the observer, and then you can be someone that enacts those emotions. You can be the observer, and then the participant of those. And that's big. It's big to note. It's not something people think of actively all the time, but it is a good way to approach things. I found value in it, because when you kind of repress or push down the emotion, it's still there. You're just not encountering it or interacting with it. So I think it's just valuable. Subconscious and conscious, that always plays into things. And then, also with that example, conflict resolution. You have anger, you act on anger, doesn't have to be in a violent sense. Conflict resolution, because you spoke up and stated your mind, and hopefully the other party took it well, is change. And change can be in a negative sense where there's some backlash, or it can be positive, where there's positive action out of it, and resolution of that conflict. So I mentioned I'm doing some writing. I don't know if you've seen in other videos, but in my writing, I do research because it's going to be various topics and plot points. But therapy is a big thing that I think has progressively gotten bigger or more talked about in recent years. So I've done research in that. 12-step program. So that is a program in which people are trying to find resolution for different things. Typically, it's alcohol addiction or abuse or other stuff like that. And in those programs, it centers on several things, not all of which I wrote down, but community, examining mistakes that maybe someone has had in the past, and a new way of life, or altering those patterns, or interaction with some substance or habit that's bad for them. So that kind of ties into the emotion, recognizing the patterns, and things that do need to change, or really just be known, because if something's not known or focused on, there's not going to be room for progress. So that's big. And then with the whole pattern thing again, you are recognizing and hopefully exiting those loops and patterns that have come about, that have repeated over and over again. And that's where we want to be. That's where the conflict resolution comes from. That's where you're not going to have a lot of issue rise again for the same circumstance that can be gotten over. So and with like a 12-step program, you can do this just with your friends or people around, just to keep yourself and others accountable. Accountability is the bigger part of that, because you can have these emotions or thoughts or issues that pop up all the time, and not be accountable, which means there's not change, there's not progress or resolution. And that is the big takeaway. Take accountability for yourself, maybe others. If they're not taking accountability, tell them. And then that's where the conflict resolution comes from. That's where you learn yourself, your habits, your thoughts, your feelings, emotions. And it's a muscle like anything else. Your brain is a large muscle, so our thinking and actions that we take all the time, it's a numbers game. It's statistics. So you can always change things. You can always learn to be less reactive with frustration or anger, or really any other emotion. But anger is a big one that people think about, because that can get dangerous, feisty. But that is a quick crash course on my take as far as emotional intelligence. There is more to it, as far as regulating emotions, and your habits, maybe creating new neurological pathways, that you form that are more healthy and conducive. But that's some good stuff. Hopefully, you got some takeaways. Um, like I said, production value going up. Got these mics. I've had them. Just had to put them on the cam. And I hope you're enjoying the ride here. Small stuff. Not worried about views. I could probably throw some ad money at stuff, but not important right now. But I am getting used to putting my message out. Hopefully, people that like it, I send stuff personally to folks that I'm posting here. But this is all tying into larger projects I'm going to make. I mentioned skits. I'll probably do some of that soon. Diving into the psyche of myself that people might have. Um, and I would also say that observed experience is lived experience. So just because you haven't lived an experience doesn't mean it's not part of your thinking or mindset. You can view someone else's experience and actions and your own sense in a way. You can learn from other people's mistakes. They don't always have to be your own. But if they're your own, you're probably going to learn it better and faster, and it's going to stick to your noggin, your brain a little better. But that's today. Hope you enjoyed. Have a good day. Know that the day is good before it's begun, and things will work out. So attend your universe, YOU universe. Just have a good day. We're out.